Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's live stream. All right. I'm like super excited. I can't lie. I have been working on this video for a couple of weeks and I'm excited. I'm really excited. I usually just kind of come on here and just talk about stuff, but I ended up writing a full article about this one because this is a topic that I feel particularly passionate about a little bit because I think that the whole indigo starseed movement uh, is pretty interesting. The whole starseed movement is interesting in general, but particularly like the indigo crystal rainbow child concept is one that is particularly interesting. So before I dive in, let me just introduce myself. My name is Mav, and on this channel, I like to talk about a lot of different things that interest me: spirituality, religious trauma, cults, neurodivergence, mental health, pretty much whatever I feel like having discussions about, I talk about. And so, yeah, welcome to the show. I would love if you would subscribe to the channel, check other videos out, see if it interests you, and go ahead and subscribe if you like it. I'm going to put this ticker up for a little bit if you want to like, share, and subscribe. I do have a spot for folks to support the channel on Buy Me a Coffee, and also have some other places where I post content. I'm Mad Magic anywhere, everywhere, so if you're interested, you can follow me there as well. And I like engagement. I want to chat with you about your thoughts. Hopefully, we might have some star seeds in the audience. We might have some former star seeds, some questioning star seeds. So I'm open to all of it. And yeah, basically, this is going to be my experience of discovering what it was like to be a starseed, and that experience, and how there may be a connection to neurodivergence as a whole. And I'm not the first person to have this discussion by any means. There is a lot of other folks on YouTube, and other articles and things that I was looking at, that you can check out. I don't think I did it yet, but I will make sure I put the article in the description. Maybe I can link it in the comments if you want to check it out as well. There are some links at the bottom of that, if you're interested in where I got some of this information from. So check it out if you're interested. But yeah, all right. So today I have a lot I want to talk about. So I have an article that I want to go through with a lot of ideas. And then after that, I would like to show you some live examples, of some folks who I think, identify as starseeds, and talk a little bit about some of my thoughts about whether or not that might be I'm not even sure how to put it. I'm not even sure. When we get to it, you'll see what my thoughts are. All right. And I'm excited for that part as well. And I'm going to do another video as well. I found a person who was a well-known starseed person who is now an ex-starseed who has posted their entire story. So I think I'm going to dedicate an entire video to that person because I think it's really interesting. All right, so let's get into the content. Like I said, I'd love to hear from you as I'm sharing, if you have any thoughts about this concept or idea. So without further ado, here is my story. Awesome, Carly, it's great to see you. Glad you're here. Okay. So I'm just going to read some of this stuff and pause to interject some of my additional thoughts. And then, yeah, we'll just see how this goes. All right. So when I first got into spirituality, I began devouring spiritual content. I noticed that a lot of people in this community felt similar to me. Soon, I came across the idea of the indigo starseed, and I thought, I found my people. It was exciting, guys. I was so relieved that there was a reason for me being so different. I felt that my suffering wasn't in vain because I had some type of a mission that was far greater than me. I had always felt different than my other friends growing up. I knew that I was a weirdo. I kind of embraced it and took it to my advantage. The funny guy mask fit me pretty well, and it was relatively likable. I was a social chameleon and spent so much time pleasing other people, that I barely really knew who I was. And while on my spiritual path, I wanted to discover who I was on the inside and what my purpose, purpose in life is. And I felt this feeling so intensely, this drive to discover some divine mission I was to fulfill. At the time, I was fresh out of Christianity, and I felt that I needed kind of a new set of ideas to guide my life. So this was perfect. And so, what is the idea of a starseed or star child? I've seen these words intertwined. So this person is someone with unique psychological traits, special characteristics, and maybe even some supernatural abilities. So many will say that starseeds have souls that are from other planets, or that they are part alien. In some of my research, there's also some definitions that say that star children are like alien human hybrids, which I'm assuming might have something to do with the reported phenomenon of alien abduction, maybe. I'm not sure. I didn't really go that route. I'm going more of kind of like the soul from another planet type of a route here. Okay, so there are many different kinds of starseeds, but I'm going to discuss the ones that are called rainbow, crystal, or indigo children. What I mean by saying there are a lot of different types of starseeds, if you do any type of research on New Age starseeds, you'll find even things like more galaxy type ones, like Pleiadian and Andromedon starseeds, like reptilian starseeds, things like that. There are a lot of other categories. But these indigo rainbow children, they seem to be distinct from that. And that's just kind of my own personal perception of that. All right. So there are so many traits, like there really is no defined list of characteristics for these types of people. It's not obviously like, like a medical condition or like the DSM, or even kind of, I don't think it might not even be like, sorry, I just said 5 sentences at once. It might be similar to maybe something like like an introvert, how it's like a kind of a loose term that it might not have a set, like exactly set characteristics. So there are a lot of different characteristics, and I'm going to try my best to read through all of the ones that I actually was able to discover. And yeah, so maybe you might, if you're like me, you'll probably resonate with a lot of these things. So let me go ahead and read through it. So, all right, so there are countless characteristics for these individuals. So I went online and compiled a list of all the traits that I could find. So they are empathetic and compassionate. These people might be considered an empath or really resonate with the label of empath. They are extremely curious and desire to understand how things work. They might be perceived by friends and family as strange. They might feel out of place, kind of like the loner or rebel type of energy. They possess a clear sense of self-identification and purpose. So there is some autonomy and independence. They have a strong feeling of entitlement or deserving to be here. They are creative. They are very intelligent, and they might not. These people may or may not perform well in school. They may have resistance to or rejection of rigid control-based paradigms of authority. So they're like, yeah, not super interested in kind of following normal hierarchical systems. They might have high expectations of themselves and others, or perfectionism. They may be highly aware of injustices or strong desire for change, a free thinker, ability to see the truth clearly or seeks out the truth. They are spiritually gifted or may have psychic abilities. They're highly intuitive, and they show a solid innate subconscious spirituality from early childhood, which I think is interesting. This one was specific for kind of like this more spiritual kind of idea of the starseed. And obviously this doesn't imply an interest in spiritual or religious ideas, because I do think that there are people who can be kind of like innately more spiritually connected to the world and have more, I don't know, more of that demeanor or persona without necessarily being interested in like religious ideas necessarily. These people are referred to as old souls. These people might feel spiritually awakened somehow. They may be frustrated with slow change. They might get bored easily. These people might be prone to addiction. They can easily connect to and bond with non-human living beings, non-human living things. They may appear arrogant at times, but also might be insecure around others. and they can be a chameleon in that their aura will take on the color of whoever else they are around. And this person might be a people pleaser. So I remember learning these characteristics and feeling like it described me so well. I was like, all right, I discovered my mission to help raise the consciousness of the planet. I had been so passionate about helping people my whole entire life. So it really made sense for me to have been born, or for my soul to have come to the planet to be this like person that helps other people. Like, it made sense because that's how I felt originally. And Hollis, you make a good point that these traits don't seem to need a special or extraterrestrial causation. That is exactly my point. I'm going to be getting to that later. Not everybody necessarily claims that this is extraterrestrial in origin. Some of them more claim that like it is some type of like a soul. There's some type of soul thing going on. Like the souls were generated in like somewhere in the galaxy, and when the people were born, their souls were inserted into these bodies or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what the mechanics is of a soul like entering a body in these belief systems. I never really knew what the exact mechanics were. I just kind of like believed it. But yeah. All right. Okay. So I passionately pursued the spiritual path, convinced of my mission, but after a long time, I became pretty disillusioned and burned out with the spiritual path, and I became more skeptical of some supernatural spiritual claims. I then turned my focus back towards psychology and started learning more about my own neurodivergence. And reading this list with the knowledge that I have now, it's like blatantly obvious to me that this list could also describe a neurodivergent person. And neurodivergent people are those who have conditions like, and I don't even know, that it was a bad way of explaining it to say that neurodivergence is conditions similar to ADHD. But it's basically like an umbrella of conditions, and examples are ADHD, autism, dyslexia. Like, you can see the list. Okay. So to support my claim, these are just some generic common lists for like autistic people and other neurodivergent people. Some of these are ones that I just kind of like thought of like as anecdotal ones I remember oftentimes hearing, and other ones that I just kind of saw scrolling on the internet. So they follow their own unique set of social rules, which mean they often don't bully people or judge others or get swayed by peer pressure. Which I think can obviously go either way, because like, you know, with the social chameleon thing, which is on this list somewhere, it can be different. Anyway, autistic people are incredibly passionate about what interests them. A lot of people are intelligent and talented. They're free of prejudice and accepting of others. They have a drive for justice, don't recognize hierarchies, so they are unlikely to give someone superior status simply because if the person is wealthy or has attained a high position in an organization. They have the ability for deep focus. They're known for novel approaches due to unique analytical thought processes. They may struggle to form deep relationships and can end up isolated. They can be very emotionally sensitive. They may be very intelligent, but might not perform well in school. Uses control to manage stress, which means that they might follow intense self-imposed rules. They might have a strong kind of desire for autonomy and doing things in the way that they feel comfortable doing. They might have trouble disagreeing with someone during a real-time conversation. They might be misjudged as arrogant. They have a heightened pattern recognition, which in my opinion, can create the appearance of psychic abilities. That might be an entire video in and of itself. I don't think I have time to go into that today. But anyway, high empathy, high intuition, innovative thinking, heightened sensory awareness. And that heightened sensory awareness can include sensory conditions like synesthesia. And for example, like this is one example of the synesthesia being kind of like conflated with like a psychic ability. And so I don't want to like say that like supernatural things don't exist necessarily. I just think that like if supernatural things happen, they're not due to like some type of unknown ethereal realm that we can't prove, that there's something that actually is happening here, like on this realm. We might just like not understand the mechanics of like how we're able to do these types of things, like, you know, like how like someone comes up to us, we just get like a strong sense that they might be feeling like us, they might have a stomach ache. Like those things are odd, but like we don't really understand how they work, but I think they're real. Like I've experienced things like that. So, but I don't know how to, I can't prove those things. So that's kind of what I mean about this whole thing. And with specifically synesthesia, like, for example, if someone has synesthesia, they might be really able to like see auras and things like that based on the way that they're like they sensorily perceive the world and different like senses and things like that. But that's a whole other conversation. I don't want to get too much into that. Okay. Anyway, they can be very honest, energetic and passionate. They may have visual thinking, and they may seem odd or unusual. Yeah. Okay. I have so many like side tangents, but I kind of want to get through this because I have a lot that I want to talk about today. Anyway. Okay, so now you would have to be blind in order to not see the similarities in these two lists. Almost everything that describes an indigo starseed is also describes a neurodivergent person. It's just almost undistinguishable to me. The only things that I noticed are different were the kind of directly spiritual comments. Yeah. So how did we get here? How did we go from something kind of, more in terms of like personality types, like, introversion towards like they are like a starseed? Like, where did this idea even come from? So the indigo starseed phenomenon, basically, okay. So why did the indigo starseed phenomenon become so popular among neurodivergent individuals? So we have to go back to what the 1970s through the 1990s, when ADHD and other learning disabilities were beginning to be diagnosed more frequently. And as more information about this condition spread, children were being prescribed stimulants, which were very misunderstood at the time. Parents had quite a bit of resistance to accepting these kinds of diagnoses for children. At about the same time, a parapsychologist, which is a person who specifically searches for like psychic phenomena in the brain or something like that. I forget exactly. Anyway, psychic and synesthete. So this person did have synesthesia, which made sense why she was able to see auras and things like that. Nancy Ann Tapp was writing about what an individual's aura color means about their personality. She noticed many children were being born with indigo colored auras with very interesting personalities. Then in 1998, a book called The Indigo Children, The New Kids Have Arrived, by authors Lee Carroll and Jan Tober, who were self-help teachers. That was popularized and commercialized the idea. And then they had their first like an indigo children conference in 2002. And I believe that those are still going on. So my assumption is that kind of like between Nancy Ann Tapp's work and when Lee Carroll got a handle of it, like there was some type of conflation with the whole like our souls are coming from somewhere else. Because I do believe that Lee Carroll is like pretty well known in like New Age circles, and kind of like shares these ideas and concepts. Yeah, okay. And that's the other thing. That's the other thing here is like everything has to be commercialized. Like I don't know why. I mean, I do know why it has to happen because of capitalism, and that's just like the way that we think these days. But everything has to kind of like become commercialized, and like because oftentimes what happens is like the indigo children will kind of like it'll lead them into the spiritual path a little bit, and then once they're into the spiritual path, especially if they're like buying books from these people, then they might kind of like always spend money to go to the conferences and like spend money on like indigo children apparel or indigo children stuff or like mystical spiritual devices. I think I'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay. But we did have some more rational folks. Not all who heard this idea were impressed. There was a researcher named Sarah W. Whedon, maybe. She authored a paper in 2004 where she stated that the construction of the indigo child came as a result of the crisis of American childhood, which she described was a time when there was increased youth violence and the diagnosis of ADHD, which I noted earlier. And she suggests that parents would prefer to describe their child as an indigo starseed and be seen as special rather than using a developmental disability or neurodivergence to explain their child's odd behavior. Um, Y'all, ableism is real, basically, is all that I want to say. I talk about, I'm going to just read the rest of this thing because I go on a rant about this. But before that, we're going to talk about changelings. And if you don't know about changelings, you going to learn today. And this is how, like, these ideas, similarly to the idea of UFO abduction, like, that concept isn't new, of like little creepy men coming from space and coming down and stealing them and taking them away and doing scary things. Like, that apparently, from what I've heard and done research on, like, had happened in the past. They just weren't aliens, they were fairies or something like that. But as alien stuff got more popular, we started using aliens instead. It's just interesting how the human psyche, like, goes, yeah, the human psyche does a lot of things to kind of make sense of its own pain or trauma and things like that. But that's a whole another conversation. Honestly, if a new idea wasn't commercialized, how would it gain acceptance or popularity or be imposed by an authority? That's a good point. I'm not really sure. Like, I think, like, some ideas, like, maybe the idea, like, I mean, I don't know if this is a bad example, but like, do you think, like, does gender get commercialized? I think gender might get commercialized, like talking about trans concepts, like, or trans or queer or whatever concepts might make, things more commercial, like purchasing flags and stuff. Is that commercialization of gender identity? Perhaps it is. That's a good question. I will eat my words on that one. But yeah, it's so tricky with the whole, like, exploitation and money thing, because there are, like, for example, like, people will spend their money on, like, to go into, like, a crystal room and, like, sit there and, like, try to heal their cancer, and, like, spend a lot of money doing that. And but also someone would spend a lot of money on, like, the medical system, the like big pharma or whatever. So it's like, who is doing the real exploitation in that situation? Is it big pharma, or is it the person who's telling you that sitting in a room with crystals is going to heal your cancer? Like, at least one of those situations has, like, evidence to back up the fact that, like, you're going to be supported by this thing. Like, maybe it might be similar to, like, putting your money into, like, a stable bank to, like, accrue interest, rather than, like, buying something like a really, like, Bitcoin or cryptocurrency that's, like, riskier. I'm not sure. I think I've lost the point. But anyway, we're going to learn about changelings. I don't think I said anything about that. The idea is that, like, these things kind of get repeated over and over again because we as humans, we don't like to accept reality, is kind of my opinion. But basically, okay, so this phenomenon, the indigo child phenomenon, reminds me of changeling folklore. So the idea was that a normal, healthy child was swapped with a lookalike fairy child. And so this child may have odd physical characteristics, as well as display intelligence far beyond your ears, and they might have incredible insight. And the way that people would identify a changeling was by trying to observe it when it thought that it was alone. And so the story goes that when the changeling was alone, when they thought that they weren't being watched, they would, like, engage in behaviors like jumping and dancing around all by itself and things like that. And when I read that, I'm like, what am I saying? Oh, it was mid-sentence. What I was saying is, I thought, like, that sounds like an autistic kid, like, stimming when they're, like, in private, when they, like, think that they're not being watched, especially maybe if they've been shamed for the behavior before, or something like that. But that was kind of my initial interpretation of that. And so yeah, back in the day, in that type of a society, it was vital for all the members of the family to be productive and have the ability to do labor, as it is thought that many parents would not have been able to care for those children. And sadly, there is evidence to suggest that infanticide took place. So like, it's easier, like, let me just put it this way. It's easier to like unalive your child if you convince yourself that it is a fairy swap lookalike than that it's just your child who's disabled, and that you're uncomfortable with it. Yeah. And this is real stuff, y'all. This really happened. I read a story, and I wish I remember her name. But there was a woman who was older. Like usually this just happens with children, but there was a woman who like got sick somehow, and her husband was convinced that she was a changeling, that she got swapped with a fairy, and ended up setting her on fire, which is pretty crazy. So there might have been other issues in the relationship other than changeling stuff for them, because that's a little crazy. That's a little intense to set your partner on fire. But yeah, it is amazing what people will convince themselves of when they are in distress, especially when they're really concerned. So imagine he really could have convinced himself that if he set this fairy on fire, they would be forced to bring back his original wife. Like, people can convince themselves of a lot of things. Yeah, and people still do that now. They just say it's demons, which is true. Yeah, that's also another aspect of it. And I've mentioned that in another video before. Yeah, and it is amazing the lengths that people will go to avoid labeling their child or themselves with a disability. First off, being disabled isn't a bad thing. Ableism has existed for a long time, and people have such a strong resistance to the reality of disabilities. Y'all, spiritual community can be dableist as hell. Ableist, I say dableist anyway. But I've got to be honest, labeling myself as an indigo starseed did swing me closer to ableist concepts that I did end up accepting for a while. So at first I was excited to have a divine mission and all, and think of my sensory sensitivities as a way of like something being valued and special. Then I slowly began to embody the idea of like self-healing, and kind of convinced myself that my neurodivergence was something that I could fix. And at the time I watched videos of people talking about how they like cure themselves of a ton of different conditions. So, and even their ADHD. So I was like, okay, I thought if other people were talking about doing this stuff, like it probably could be real. It had to be real. Like these people wouldn't lie about curing their ADHD. Like, why would you lie about it? But yeah, it's like saying I'm gonna like cure myself of brown hair. Like it's like it's just a part of who you are. Like you're just not, you can't not be ADHD. Like I'm pretty sure like dyslexia, you can't not be dyslexic. You can't cure your dyslexia. You're just going to be dyslexic. You just see the world in a different way. You're the way that your brain is set up is just a little bit different than other people. But yeah, we'd rather think that we were like a magical being from outer space. We'd rather think that our souls were from another location, or that we were like sent here for some like divine grand purpose or something, than just accept that we're different, and that's the beginning and end of the story. And then we get to decide what else we want to do. If we want to kind of give ourselves our own divine mission, then that's fine. We can do that, but we don't really need to get it from like somewhere else. Okay. All right. So there were a lot of other spiritual beliefs that I adopted during that time. And when I finally began to come back to more grounded beliefs, there was a lot that I had to let go of. And one of the first things to go was the concept of the starseed. So one of the first reasons was that there's no evidence for like a literal soul, like some type of immaterial thing that is able to be separated from our physical body. The idea of like a deep inner depths, like this creative unconscious that lives within us, like that is a real thing. And that is what I believe like the soul to be, not like a ghost thing, I guess is what I mean by that. So there's no evidence that there is something like this that could exist, that could come from another galaxy, that could be implanted into a person, right? That's kind of what I'm saying. So say the idea that your soul came from another planet is just pretty far-fetched. I also realized that this concept kind of tokenizes neurodivergent or gifted folks. So imagine what it's like for a neurodivergent kid to be told this. they may feel special, they may be experiencing a tremendous amount of stress, believing that they were sent here to help change the world. That's a lot of pressure. It's really a lot of pressure. Perhaps you were like me and you convinced yourself you were a starseed as an adult. And you probably put a lot of tremendous amount of pressure on yourself as well. Like I did. I put a lot of pressure on myself. And so Hollis is saying, what I'm getting is that neurodivergent persons have a similar aura for those who can see them. And this was the first effort to group them and provide a means of integration for them. First attempts suck. Yes, I would totally agree. I don't, this might be a good time to mention this. I read a book a little bit ago. It was about like psychic perception by this guy who was like he was in the Navy, and talked about how his psychic abilities were able to help him like be a better manager and things like that. And in his way of kind of understanding psychic abilities is kind of like it's a very natural phenomenon. Like you're able to connect to kind of like this deeper part of yourself. And you're able to kind of like connect to objects in a different way, in a deeper way. And so I think that those have some validity to them. And he had different ways of grouping people. Like some people were like visual thinkers, and they were the people who were clairvoyant and the clairaudient. He had like different ways of describing them, and he would say that he can tell, like, because he has synesthesia, and he said that he can see what people's like what they typically are. So he has his own way of kind of viewing people's auras. And I don't think that they were blue for him. I think that they were like yellow, but like they were on different parts of around different people's heads. But the way that he described one of the groups of them like really reminded me of when neurodivergent people are talking to each other. And how they behave. Anyway, so yes, Hollis, I definitely agree, is that they were seeing something that was real, and they like they just went down maybe like a little bit of a path that like just wasn't necessarily like, it doesn't really lead anywhere. Like, yeah, it doesn't lead anywhere. When we can start to say like, what actually makes these people different? When we can look at their brains and see what makes them different, then we can say like, wow, these people have different brains. Their amygdalas look like this, so they might act more like this. And how can we support these people? How can we help them feel more, connected to the world? Like this is the usefulness of like evidence-based practice of science. That's how we can actually help people. If we continue to just do bloodletting and we're like, we think that this is fine, it feels good, let's just continue doing bloodletting, that we wouldn't have a lot of the technological medical advances that we have today, that we're saving like a bazillion lives. Like the invention of vaccines didn't come from not doing evidence-based practice. So that's basically what I'm saying. Okay. And then also, really quickly, I'm not saying that spiritual practice is not evidence-based. I personally believe that the shamans, like they were some of the first scientists. Like they tested different ways of getting themselves into trance-like states, and they were able to repeat those in rituals and things like that. So I'm not saying that spirituality cannot apply the scientific method entirely. I'm still figuring out all my beliefs on this too, so be patient with me. Thank you. Okay, so all these beliefs mixed with my perfectionism and obsession with doing things the right way was the perfect recipe for me to get lost in the clouds. And what I hope to do with this article is to help bring you back to earth. I understand that it's tempting to label yourself as a starseed and to deny the label of disabled. And it's a lot to accept for parents as well. Sometimes a diagnosis like this brings up a lot of shame for failures in parenting and fears of judgment from others. And perhaps that you feel that it's better to be gifted as an indigo starseed than it is to be disabled as a neurodivergent person. Unfortunately, our culture treats neurodivergence as a disorder and demonizes the label of disabled. No wonder why we have such a hard time with this. So in addition, there's an autism researcher named Mitzi Waltz who showed that the crystal starseeds, which are kind of similar to the indigos, relate to a person on the autism spectrum. And he shares that it's better it's better to teach these kids about how their autistic traits may make it appear as if they have psychic abilities. He wants them to know that this is just a positive trait of their autism and to embrace themselves. And denying impairments and even strengths is not helpful, and it can actually land you in severe burnout. For example, if you're struggling with making friends while identifying as a starseed, if you're struggling to make friends while identifying as a starseed, that might lead you to believe that this is the case because your soul is just from another planet, when in reality, you have difficulty in social situations due to autism, and you can learn strategies to help support you in building meaningful relationships, or even communicating your needs to other people if you have difficulties communicating. If you just believe that you're just different, you're just built different because your soul's from a different place, not only does it have the potential to create some type of feelings of like hierarchy within yourself, like my soul is better than like another person, but it's not useful in my opinion. And like I said, you can help yourself more functionally by saying like, I'm actually a real person. We both are equal in ourselves, and I'm different because of the way my neurology is. And since my neurology is different, I can learn X, Y, and Z things, or help other people learn how to communicate with me, X, Y, Z. And you can actually help support yourself and create better connections. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. So understanding and accepting our impairments doesn't hold us back. It actually gives us freedom to seek accommodations and to help move us forward in life. Yeah, before I let myself make accommodations for myself, like I suffered a lot more. I had a lot less of a good time. I tried to meditate away a lot of my sensory related problems because I just thought that I would sit around and just feel so irritated in my body, and I would assume that was like for some type of like spiritual thing that was going on. And so I would meditate and try to, or some other type of thing to try to figure out what was going on. And I was approaching my emotions, which was a healthy thing to do. It was to be curious about my emotions, and that was good. But what was happening wasn't an emotional or spiritual response. It was like a more of like a sensory based, like physical reaction. And when I understood about sensory sensitivities, then I actually knew what to do to help myself. And I put headphones on or do something, or go to a different room, and my body calms down. So that's what I'm talking about, is I would rather for people to help themselves in that way than to think that they need to go burn sage or something like that to clear the negative energy that's in their body. All right. So Hollis says that it was the 1970s or 80s, 90s, not a time where we considered how to support people as job number one, for sure. And by the way, we do use bloodletting or use leeches for healing. Some old ideas were nonetheless okay. Right. I'm sure. There probably are, for example, I don't know if this would be the same thing, but maybe dialysis could even be some type of a similar thing to bloodletting. And I'm sure people still use leeches and bloodletting, and there might be actual medical benefits to those things. But we have improved since then because of obviously the evidence that we've done. And you're right, people might not have been as interested in helping people and actually supporting other people back in the day. But now we know things, which is nice. And having information means that we can help each other better. All right. So if you're still wondering, what's the harm in believing all this stuff? It's all fun and games, right? So I think that believing this can add a lot of magic to your everyday life, for sure. But at what cost, potentially? So ignoring your neurodivergence might mean you don't get access to proven treatments, tools, and accommodations that can help you in your day-to-day life. In addition to this, many people may be convinced to spend money on unhelpful treatments. For example, you may want to stop procrastinating so much that you go to a psychic to help you connect to your home planet for support. You might feel the need to create a starseed lifestyle in order to help raise the vibration of the earth. So then you pay a spiritual guru thousands of dollars for meditation training, which is fine. It's fine to pay people money if you especially if, like, with informed consent, you like know all the side effects, I guess. And I think that the issue is a lot of people don't have informed consent. Oftentimes because I think that people sometimes practicing this stuff don't really even understand what's going on. Yeah, at least like in my opinion. Okay. So yeah, if a person wants to spend money on these things, it's their choice. But at the end of the day, these things may not help you in the way that you need. My hope is that whatever you choose to believe, you show yourself compassion. And I hope that you move in the direction of supporting yourself and making your life easier. If you recognize any of the characteristics I listed above, do your own research and possibly see a professional to get an assessment. So if you read this and you're like, I'm totally a starseed, that was kind of the opposite of the point I was trying to make in this entire video. If you think you're a starseed, I would get evaluated. Just to check it out. If you're not having any impairments in your life and you feel fine, then you might not need to. I think some people have, autistic traits, like ADHD traits of other conditions, even like Tourette's or things like maybe like some tics and things like that they deal with that aren't really a real issue. They don't need to like seek medical attention for. But if you're interested, you can go get evaluated, and that would be the way for you to figure things out. Yeah. All right. And okay. And I do want to say that identifying as an indigo starseed was a fundamental part of my self-development and my spiritual journey. I do look back and cringe a bit at myself, but I also love that but I also love that part of myself for its passion and curiosity. It's the same curiosity that led me to do research on autism and eventually self-determining as an autistic ADHDer. I never really felt more connected to myself, and I know that accepting my neurodivergence was a massive part of this. So I hope that you can show yourself the same kind of compassion if you find yourself in the same situation as me. Yay. Cool. I want to understand a little bit more about what you mean. What part is the self-medicating part? Like the seeking out other treatments, or like supporting yourself with accommodations? I'm not sure what you mean by that, so just help me understand. And also have some sources here if you want to check them out on this as well if you're interested. But yeah, I just want to understand a little bit more about what you mean by the blind leading the blind. Which is how a lot of things are. A lot of things are the blind leading the blind. And I hope that I think that was why I said to like seek out evaluations. That would be maybe not the blind leading the blind. I'm not sure what you mean. So if I can understand a little more, then maybe I can answer the question better. Yeah. All right. So I'm curious, like, if anyone has any thoughts, I'm totally open to hearing people's thoughts about being a starseed. If anyone else had ever identified as a starseed or were curious about that whole thing, what your thoughts are about it. Because this was definitely an interesting thing to me. And like, specifically just like feeling out of place. Like when you're someone who just feels out of place in the world, you are constantly looking for somewhere to like fit in. And this is where sometimes we can have the complication of like neurodivergent people who can be lonely sometimes because they might have difficulties with interacting with people for a variety of reasons, can end up feeling isolated and therefore can be at a higher risk of like getting into like controversial or like unhealthy groups because they have things like community, they have structure, they have rules that are built into them. I mean, maybe even a philosophy of life, purpose, and a mission. Like these things are really attractive. They were really attractive for me. So, that's an important thing to consider. All right. Yeah. And, like I'd rather, and the thing about like not knowing for sure, like what my diagnosis is, I don't know for sure, like what the hell is going on in my brain. But the tools that I have found so far have been more useful and have proved to show more lasting change, I would say, so far in my life. Yeah, and like I'm just sharing my personal experience. These are the things that I've noticed. Okay, so very exciting stuff. We're going to jump in to the second portion of this video. We're going to talk a little bit more about this whole concept. Oh, here it is. Okay, so one is having issues such as oversensitivity, for example. One seeks a solution naturally. These others have a solution of sorts through this belief system. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, people just like, if they might, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like someone can just like be experiencing something and like be introduced to like the starseed path and like get kind of thrown into the whole entire spiritual like realm, but not have like actual answers for like why their neurology is causing these things. Yeah. And sometimes we can have migraines and like find some weird supplement and then fixes it. Like that is totally a thing that happens sometimes. Like, yeah. And yeah, you're welcome. I'm not done. I'm not done. There's more because I want to show a little bit more about like how people I think get kind of pulled into like new age thinking. I personally think that new age thinking is like a not so safe religious idea at all. I don't think that it's healthy psychologically. That's my opinion as a clinician. I think it's really dangerous. And that's why I have such strong opinions about neurodivergent people getting pulled into new age thinking without knowing how to think critically. I would love it if you would find spiritual ideas that you feel connected with and drawn to. I love that for you, but I just want you to know how to think critically, and then you can go do whatever you want. I'm just saying because I had lots of shitty experiences without critically thinking, and put me in bad spaces. And learning how to critically think is a helpful thing to do, and you can help teach other people in your life how to also critically think, which is a useful skill for literally like everything in life. I think if there's some way that critical thinking is bad for you, I would be interested in learning about that. Okay. But the system is a story created to kind of sort of explain what's going on, but they don't know more than you do, the blind leading the blind. Which system? Like the other spiritual system or like the medical system? Okay, I'm just not sure. All right, so like I said, I am going to make another video talking about this one specific person who had an experience like coming through the spiritual path and coming out of it. But I want to show, I probably want to do, these like 2 videos maybe I'll watch. I was thinking that I wanted to do more, but I think that just these 2 will be good. So these are 2 people who are, from what I know, they are definitely neurodivergent, but they seem to have kind of neglected the neurodivergent part of themselves and have kind of accepted more spiritual views. More power to them. Do whatever you want. Like I said, I just personally believe that these ideas are very harmful. Like you can believe what you want, but I stand pretty firmly in believing that New Age concepts are harmful. So I want to share some of these thoughts with you. And we're going to watch a video from a channel, and this feels ironic as shit, y'all, from a channel called the Autistic Mystic. Okay? Like this guy, like his channel is called the Autistic Mystic, And in this video, he talks about starseed stuff. He talks about starseed stuff. Like it's, yeah, he, at one point in the video, he talks about how like people might think that you're on the spectrum, but it's really that you're a starseed. Like that to me is like bonkers. Like you are definitely giving people misinformation. Like that is what I have an issue with. Yeah. Okay. And then also the other thing is like maybe it's fine to say that you're like an indigo, whatever, like you relate to this indigo term. Like, sure, that's fine. But I hope that you understand the point of what I'm getting at is that like denying the reality that like you have a disability is you can do it if you want. But like I just think that, you know, it could prove to be harmful in your life. Maybe it's not, but whatever. Okay. So we're gonna watch some videos from this guy, the autistic mystic, sharing some of his thoughts about being this crystal indigo child situation thing. Like I said before, there are like several different versions of this that I've heard. So yeah. I just want to say first, he gives 5 signs. We're gonna watch the last 4. The first one was that you have big eyes. I just think that was like an interesting thing to add. And I don't even think that this guy in the video has big eyes, in my opinion. But I don't know about that one being, because he's the only one that I really saw that said that from all the research that I did. Okay. Okay, sorry. He is the one who said that from all of the recordings and stuff that I did. I think that I might have been cut out there for a second or two. All right. Let's dive in.
Hopefully you can also understand that you are a crystal. So there's something off with you. Now when
sorry, hold on. I went a little bit too far. Let me see what's 146. Okay.
Big eyes. Number 2 is an extremely relaxed way of being. Even so much that some people might think that you're on the spectrum or there's something off with you. Now, when I was a little kid, my parents told me that, you know, I was just very calm. I never did anything. I never was like, went crazy. Like a lot of kids were just very hyper. And as a crystal, I was very calm in my own energy. And as a result of that, many times we can be misunderstood because people think that there's nothing going on up here. But as crystals, we're so intuitive. We're very in tune with a lot that's going on. And as a result, it can lead to some, again, misunderstandings. And because of our relaxed nature, oftentimes we are very in tune with nature and animals and crystals themselves. So being a crystal, you're definitely a relaxed person.
Right. You see this, right? That like I'm like you almost like you were right there. Like, so that's the thing is like I think that it seems like he has this perception of being on the spectrum, meaning that there's something missing there. That is just the way that I'm perceiving what he's saying, right? Like, I don't understand. I mean, I do understand how this happens, and I know why. Like, a ton of people would not want to be autistic. Because there's a lot of stigma about it. Like, there's tons of people who don't want to be autistic. Like, yeah, there's a lot of reasons to not want to accept the reality. There are people who like have conditions. I knew a guy in high school who was diagnosed autistic, but like he said stuff like, yeah, I was diagnosed, but I'm not really autistic. Like, I'm not really autistic. Like, you could, like, I'm normal. I can have conversations. I'm not like one of those autistics. Like, do you see how that's not necessarily a helpful way of portraying autism, right? Like, there's an issue here with like discrimination, right, towards autistic folks, so much that people would rather label themselves as a crystal soul and kind of go for this ideology than it is for people to actually just know that there's what is going on with them in their neurology. Okay. Real quick, Now I'm wondering how New Age beliefs are harmful in the sense that I realize that I don't know what the goal of participating in the system would be. If it fulfills the goal, then it's not harmful. Yeah. The goal, I guess, like of New Age beliefs to like bring in the fifth dimension or whatever, like I guess that's fine in and of itself. What I mean about New Age beliefs being harmful is like things like your thoughts create your reality, like those beliefs, which are pretty much very much like integral to New Age concepts, like are one, not true. Like it is not true that your thoughts create your reality. Your thoughts can influence your perception of how you view things, for sure, but your thinking patterns don't actually make things happen. Um, yeah, especially not in any provable or repeatable sense. Could there be a time where one time you think about something and then someone hands you a purple flower that you were thinking of? Totally, that can happen. But I'm not going to say then that means that your thoughts create your reality, because you've had a couple of examples of that being what you perceive as has happened. Like, okay, let me tell you a good example. There's an example of, I watched this video a while ago of this guy. He like, there was a lamp on the floor and he would like touch the plug. It was unplugged and he would touch the plug and the lamp would light up. So if you watch that video, you're like, oh my gosh, this guy has magical powers. His hands can make the electricity work. But like when you actually understand what was going on in terms, I don't know, like in terms of like physics, I don't know if it's physics or electronics, whatever. There was like something that had to do with like the grounding wire and the way that the electricity in his body or whatever was allowed to transfer the energy to the plug, which made it turn on. Like there's a reason that this stuff is happening. You can ignore the reason and just pretend that you have magical powers to turn on the light, but you would be deluding yourself. So that's why I'm saying that New Age beliefs are harmful, because it kind of teaches you to not think critically. It teaches you to kind of like have really like illogical based thinking. And I have personally in my life, I've seen how that has led me to more obsessive beliefs, more panic in my life. And so that is my anecdotal experience. And I've also seen it kind of create some like OCD type tendencies towards obsession towards the way that you're thinking. Like I said, psychologically as a clinician, it's just not healthy. Okay, let's continue.
Number 3 is that you are extremely empathic, meaning that you can literally feel everything. This is the struggle for crystals, is that we have a clear aura, a very big aura, and because of that, we happen to take on the energy of those around us and mistake it for our own energy. So if you're someone who goes around and you feel everything off someone, you feel, and it's very overwhelming, then that may mean that you're a crystal. And as a crystal, that probably has been the biggest struggle, because people call us the aura chameleons, meaning that like a lizard that changes its color to whatever thing it goes on. And like that, we're our auras, if we're hanging out around someone with a blue aura, oftentimes that blue, we will literally become that blue aura, and we'll be thinking and acting in a way that is in accordance with that aura. So for us, things like social conditioning, things like just like patterns of behavior is very at times tough to get away from. It's tough to remain in our pristine energy. So it's very hard to remain in our own energy. But as a crystal, the more that you can just tune into yourself and you can realize that you are here to kind of clean things up. See, as indigos, they kind of just went around and they were very like cleaning up things, like just like literally cleaning up. But as crystals, part of our mission here on Earth is just to remain very relaxed and just let our aura do the work, because it is a very large energy field and it is a very clear energy field. And so when you're with someone,
I just really want to pause real quick. I hope that you heard him. This person, I watched like every video he made on on crystal and indigo children and everything, and he seems to have more of like a generational aspect. So like, for example, his mom, he says that his mom was an indigo child and he is a crystal child, and I think that if he has children, then those would be the rainbow children. And when I see that, I'm like, so like, you know, both you and your mom seem to have similar personality types. Like to me, I'm like, that's because neurodivergence tends to be genetic. So like, duh. Like I look at my dad and I'm like, yeah, like it makes sense why I am the way that I am. Like we have very similar ways of being, ways of thinking and conceptualizing the world and information and interacting with people and things like that. So yeah. So that I just wanted to point out kind of like how his perception of the crystal thing has to do with like your generations and stuff like that. And they seem to each have a different function. Like the indigos seem to want, like they had to come here to clean up the earth or something. And I'm curious about what cleaning up they did because I don't know if it worked. But apparently the indigo's responsibility is just to chill. Very interesting perception.
Someone and you're just giving them your present moment awareness, you're giving them your conscious attention, then that's really all you have to do as a crystal. You don't have to go out and be like all this crazy stuff. You are the crazy stuff just as you are, literally without doing anything. And so as a crystal, you're going to be very sensitive to other people's energy, but just know that you are a very powerful energy in and of yourself.
Which I think is true as heck. I think as neurodivergent folks, we do need to learn how to like stand in our own energy, understand when we are being kind of like pulled into like to kind of mimic someone else in a way that maybe is not authentic to us. That is definitely something that we have to be cautious of. But like when I go into it thinking that I can't help, I just have a chameleon aura and I'm just gonna have to go into the situation and have to take on all this person's energy. I don't think that that's true. I personally have learned skills that have helped me with my kind of like hyper empathy, where I less often will kind of like hear someone's story and like take it on like as my like on myself. Now I'm able to kind of like hear someone's story and kind of put it in a place where I'm able to feel with them, but I'm able to also like have distance from it and understand that, like kind of differentiate my energy and things like that. And I use this word energy very flippantly. And I don't think it means like what a lot of people say it means, but I'm using it in more of like a friendly, informal sense. I hope that it makes sense to you guys.
Number 4 is that you are extremely sensitive and delicate in the physical sense. Now, because of our aura that is very sophisticated and fine-tuned, a lot of the things that are of a lower vibrational nature, like bad food, alcohol, a lot of drugs, they will affect us like way more than the average person. So when I was, a few years ago, teenager, drinking in the woods, I would get drunk off like such little alcohol and things like that. And because of that, as a crystal, when you don't know that you're a crystal, you might feel really bad. You might be like, wow, am I just a weakling? And then all this stuff, because you're in connection with God. But at that moment.
So, right? Like, I'm going to pass through this one because this one isn't really one that I wanted to talk about that much. But like, so he's saying that like he has more sensitivities to like alcohol and drugs and also the other problem here with New Age beliefs is low vibrational versus high vibrational stuff. Like that is, I don't like that at all. I think that that's problematic. For one, people will say stuff like meat is low vibrational and it's bad for you and it has negative life source energy, so it's gonna suck it out of you for sure. And it doesn't even really make sense at the end of the day, but like it's just not real. Like meat obviously is life-giving. If a person is starved, they will be better if they ate just meat versus if they starved themselves, right? A balanced diet is a great idea. So saying that makes it seem that like being a vegetarian or vegan is the only healthy way to go, is the only truly spiritual path to take. And I can't agree with that. I can't do it. Whatever. I can't do that. And so for you, like this is all well and good. So fine, let's say I'm a crystal soul. Number 1, why should I care? Number 2, how is this revelation or whatever going to help me improve my life? So for me and my experience, like when I was kind of like feeling a little bit lost, like I didn't really have like a particular spiritual path to take, finding out about this whole indigo thing was like, wow, like this is a path that I can take. So when I read and watched videos about what an indigo was or what the crystal child or whatever was, I kind of related to all of them. I was like, okay, then this is who I am. This is like a spiritual path that I can take. So for me, his revelation would impact a person like me who's maybe curious about different spiritual paths and can be a part of the influence that influences them to kind of like take on that spiritual path. And it could be and have improvements in their life for sure. I noticed improvements in my life when I started on the New Age path. It didn't last for forever. It blew up in my face, but it started off pretty good and it was nice. And there was improvements in the beginning and I learned stuff along the way. Hope that makes sense a little bit. Then I think I have one more point from this video that I wanted to run through. Yeah, just briefly. Maybe he brings it up at the end.
A lot of these social conditioning patterns that are happen to be in us because of our crystalline absorption. We have to just remove that and just come within. And when you can do that, then you really can improve your life as a crystal. So there you have it.
Also, like, I have no idea what he said at the end. And I think, I'm not sure what time, I must have gotten the timestamp wrong because I'm not able to find it. Oh, wait. Oh, never mind. It was on a different video. But yeah, that's all I'm going to say with this video particularly. Yeah, for me, I saw this one and I was like, man, like he was so close. Like you can tell that he is someone who resonates. He must at least, I don't know if he's ever gotten a diagnosis, but he must at least resonate with the idea of autism, for him to call his channel the Autistic Mystic. But at the same time, he seems to like poo-poo autism, and that it means like there's like something missing from you, or that something's wrong with you if you are on the spectrum. That's what he said. Like people might think that something's wrong with you or you're on the spectrum or something. Like, yes, being on the spectrum is like something to look into. And I understand that people would use that. And I don't want to get on him for his language too much there. But I think that it's important to just think through this a little bit deeply. And yeah, I think this video I think is going to be helpful because this one, it shows both of why I think that the New Age beliefs are harmful, and the whole issue with the starseed thing. I'm showing you. This is the new video that we're gonna be watching together. Not the secret weapon for storytelling. We're obviously dealing with some lag here, so let me just give me a second until I can get this to work. I'm excited about this one too. I'm probably going to watch the whole thing again with you all because there's just so much in the New Age that I find so problematic. And he says a lot of it in this video, which I think is perfect because I get to just kind of talk to you about what I think is problematic. Okay, so I think maybe we're going to start from the beginning and kind of go from there. This is someone, and I did mean to fact check this one detail before I made this video, and so forgive me so that I can do it right now. Hopefully I do this before this other phone dies. But if I'm not mistaken, I think that he has a video where he stated like how I cured my ADHD, which I think is problematic. I just want to make sure, though, that was actually what was said. And it's not loading right now, so I'll try to find it on a different day. But yeah, I think that that's problematic. So this is a person who, you'll see what his opinion on his ADHD is. That's kind of what it is. Yeah. And Hollis, yeah. So it was a temporary coping strategy until you found a more successful one, which is human life, isn't it? But complaining about less evolved people being less evolved is an inefficient use of time. Cool. Like I really think that it is. Personally, I wish that I had the information that I'm sharing right now. So hopefully there are people who find this information useful. I think that is a very skillful use of my time to teach people how to look at information and to say, like, how can I tell that what this person is saying is true? And by true, I mean like that a person is able to kind of like actually like has evidence for what they're saying. They're not just like talking out of their ass. And if they are talking out of their ass, that you know that they're talking out of their ass, that they admit it. Because I talk out of my ass sometimes, but I try my best to admit when I'm doing it. And then I try to admit when I'm saying something that I know has like evidence behind it. I think that it's very, very useful to do this type of critical thinking. And it's useful to kind of explain why these things are harmful. This stuff just doesn't exist. A lot of this stuff doesn't exist. And And yeah, it's the content that I like to consume. I like to consume content of people like critiquing beliefs and kind of like pulling things apart. And I like to pull things apart as well. I did the same. It's kind of like the deconstruction process. I had to go through all of my beliefs and figure out what was going on with them. And now I am able to look back and see like, okay, I can see how that belief is harmful. I will make, like, for example, I applaud people who spend hours and hours and hours complaining about people who are in cults. Like, I respect that. I think that that's a great use of your time to complain about cult leaders and hope that they will get called out, and maybe that the people in the cults will be freed, and will be able to be healthfully deprogrammed, and will be able to go back to living a healthy life. And maybe, yeah. Yeah, it's a tough thing because a lot of times people enjoy being in cults. I know that I have had some of my more beautiful moments in life have come from like my cultish intense religious experiences. Like, obviously there was negative things, but there were also positive things. So that's why I do what I do. Why I spend so much time doing this stuff is because I wish that I had it, and I think that it's valuable. All right. Let's get into Aaron a little bit. I used to watch this guy a lot when I first started on my spiritual path, and then started to feel like a little bit like there was a little bit of not the line of thinking kind of fell apart, but that was, yeah. Anyway, let's watch.
I'm going to be sharing with you that of starseeds and ADHD.
Ooh, is this too fast? Yeah. I can watch it on 2x speed because I'm, crazy, but I don't know about if you guys can handle it.
Or ADD. I'm going to be showing you the truth that no one tells you and what you can do about it. Welcome back to another video.
And okay, so Hollis, this is what I mean. He said the truth that nobody tells you. How do you know it's the truth? Right? So he leads this entire video that says this is the truth, but you don't know. He doesn't know. I wish that he would say, this is an opinion. This is a thing that I really think might be true. I'm not sure about it. I don't really have any evidence to say that this is what it is, but this is what I think. If he said that, I wouldn't really have any problem with his video. None at all. But he leads with the truth that nobody tells you. I'm going to tell you the truth. You're not. You think that you are. Like, come on. And if you ever catch me doing that, like saying something is true without evidence, please call me out. Because I want to learn. I want to discover things. I want to know things that I can believe with evidence. So thank you. Okay, let's get into it.
My name is Aaron, and I help people expand their consciousness. Now, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you that of understanding starseeds and ADD or ADHD. Now, in general, when we look at this,
yeah.
ADD, ADHD has to do with a type of attention deficit disorder, and it has to do with understanding that a lot of the kids nowadays being born into this reality, because we are all multidimensional beings, we exist at higher levels of consciousness. We forget that when we come and have an Earth experience. However, many of the kids being born today and that have been born over the last...
Okay, sorry, I tried to pause because he just laid out like 6 or 7 unsubstantiated claims, okay? And he just threw them out casually as truth. I need to go back. There's just so much. There's so much that's problematic here, and I hope that you can start to see why. Okay, listen.
With understanding that a lot of the kids nowadays being born into this reality, because we are all multidimensional beings.
We are all multidimensional beings. How do you know? We could be. That I personally would think that it was so effing cool if we were multidimensional. I want to be the first to know if that's something that we can actually substantiate. But right now, the evidence is leaning towards that's probably not what's going on here. And that is a bummer, because I think that it would be so amazing if that was true, right? But like, that's an unsubstantiated claim, okay? So unsubstantiated claim, I'm not gonna keep a list because it's gonna be too long, but that's one.
Exist at higher levels of consciousness.
2, we exist at higher levels of consciousness. What does that mean? What is a higher level of consciousness? Like, people say things like that and they just like toss it out, but they don't explain what it means. Do you mean like a higher plane? Like, is that like where angels live? Like, what is the higher consciousness?
We forget that when we come and have an Earth experience. However, many of the kids being born.
Okay, third unsubstantiated claim. We forget that we are multidimensional higher consciousness beings when we come and born into this reality. How do you know we forget? How do you know that you remembered the right thing? What if the forgetting is so deep that we could never remember it until we die again? How would we ever know? But he says that this is the truth. So, which I think is frustrating. The first thing that you would do of this video, okay, let's do this. Let's do this together, okay? Because this is why so many people, like, I feel strongly about this because I believed a lot of this stuff because I didn't know how to think for myself. And so if a person doesn't know how to think for themselves, they would do what I'm doing. They'd go down to the comments section. There might be some people against him, but I'm sure a lot of the people will say things like, a lot of related things. So we've helped a lot of people with ADHD related syndromes. And I'd be curious as to like what this like attracts like evolution group is. Like this could be some type of a group that maybe like helps people heal from ADHD or something like that. Some people talk about how I don't have ADHD, but some people have it, or trying to think of what they're saying. Oh, people with this diagnosis were just intended for a different evolutionary purpose within the tribal structure, which is something that I totally agree with. I think that it is functional for people with autism and ADHD to exist in our societies. Some people saying that ADHD is more of a superpower than a limitation. There's a lot of other stuff. Not really, kind of maybe a balance. No one really saying stuff about too much of things. This person talking about taking medication, being off of medication, and trying to do yoga and meditation instead, which is fine. Like it's fine to not be comfortable with medication. But some of the videos that I've watched, it is depressing to read the comments because of how duped people are, in my opinion. But okay.
And that have been born over the last 30 years have come and had more of their DNA activated. They have more of
Okay, maybe I am gonna track unsubstantiated claims because I already have. That's number 4. 3, 4. Okay. I don't even remember what he just said because I think it's so
ability 30 years have come and had more of their DNA activated.
Okay. So people have come and have had more of their DNA activated. What does that mean? What does it mean? But for me, knowing, because I came from these New Age circles, people pretty much talk about how your DNA is kind of like dormant within you. And as you raise your vibration, you kind of like awaken your, I forget what it is, your 3-strand or your 5-strand DNA, which is like some higher form of DNA or something like that. So these are like other beliefs that he's just like casually tossing them into sentences so that you're just like, oh, okay, that's fine. Yeah, 1.4 million. Yeah, this is a problem, right? He's a huge creator, okay? So these people, there's a lot of people that are just spreading these claims. Like another person, Teal, I have a lot of feelings about Teal Swan. I need to do a video on her eventually. She's huge. She's a huge following in a lot of places, right? And they're just like, this is the truth. And I'm like, oh, okay. Look, another observation. Thank you, Carly. Both Autistic Mystic and Aaron have openly discussed their experiences with ayahuasca. And I have actually done this and opened to me with the New Age thinking. Yeah, and I think I have a lot of opinions on drug trips and the revelations found on drug trips. And I'm someone who haven't like tripped before. And but I'm glad that I haven't, that now I've waited until now to have, because I know more now. I'd love to go on it. I'd love to trip, but like, I need to know how to integrate after a trip. And if you don't know how to integrate properly, you can end up not in a good spot. Probably a bunch of the influence. The way that I hear people talk about these experiences, it's very convincing, because yeah, because you can't look at someone and deny that, deny their experience, because their experience was very real for them, right? But the way that they integrate the information can sometimes be problematic. And so, where this person says, I used to be so heavy into this stuff for the past 2 years. I went down the rabbit hole of New Age spirituality and conspiracy theories, and I only recently figured out it was all just BS. Same, dude. It's only been a couple of, my elbow. Goodness freaking gracious. Okay. Maybe my thoughts created my reality. Maybe I was talking shit about the New Age too much, and the universe just caused me pain. Okay. Yeah, and that's the thing, y'all, is one of the more dangerous things about the New Age is New Age to conspiracy or New Age to Christian. It's just so, just please, just go on your own time. Just do a quick Google search or a YouTube search of New Age to Christianity. There's so many people who start to move away from maybe religion, and they start thinking for themselves, and they want to find spirituality. And so they go into the New Age and they do a little tarot here and there, but then all of a sudden you're like believing in aliens and that there's reptilians everywhere. Like, it happens so fast. And I thought I was a chosen one and everything. Bro, I don't know if you're who, but yes, I know. Yeah. Yeah, New Age is pretty much just like a big pick-me party. And I can say that because I was a part of it. I think I'm allowed to make fun of it because I did it too. So I'm not making fun of it because I think, I'm like, you're stupid. I'm like, I believed it. I was a pick-me. I was like, I want to be special and be magical and be the chosen one. I wanted to. I wouldn't admit it openly, but I definitely wanted it. Okay. We've only gone 1 minute into this video, and there's already been 4 unsubstantiated claims and a lot of nonsense. Okay. Let's go.
They'd have more ability for them to connect to the different aspects of the way their mind works and the way that they think. And because of that, there are certain side effects of what happens with that in our reality. Now,
5, there are side effects in our reality about the way, like, I'm not sure even what that is. It just feels like an unsubstantiated claim because I don't know what he's saying.
The reason I'm sharing this video is because a lot of people that have ADD or ADHD may judge themselves. They may think that there's something wrong with them. That was me for years
which is true, which is very true. And that's a problem, right? But I promise you that what he's talking about, I don't think is a solution. But
when I was working before my spiritual awakening in 2012, I identified very strongly with having ADHD. I was going to work every day. It was hard for me to focus. I worked at that time I worked at Nordstrom's and women's shoes. And I'm going to work every day, and I'd have to focus on helping customers because it was a commission-based job, but I found it very hard to focus. And it was hard for me to, I'd go into the back stock room sometimes. I'd forget what kind of shoes they wanted to try on. I had a lot of energy that was ungrounded, unbalanced. So sometimes people would actually even judge me and think that there was something wrong with me. There was a point when I've always had a lot of energy, and that energy just sometimes wasn't always balanced. So it wasn't always grounded. I remember even one time at Nordstrom's, trying to think if I want to share this. When I was at Nordstrom's, I was working in a certain department. One of the managers there was talking to other managers. I found this out because I had a friend in a different department that was a manager, and she was like the assistant manager. She was telling other managers that she thought that I was on coke, which is like a drug. I wasn't at all.
I just think that's so funny because sometimes people with ADHD they just seem like they just seem different. Like, you're just like, what is going on with this person? I feel bad. Like, I feel really bad. It's so crappy that he had these experiences at work. Yeah, it sucks.
Do anything. However, that to me was something that really kind of hurt me because I'm like, oh, somebody's spreading rumors about me as if I did that. I've never done that in my life. And I remember what I did was I sat down that assistant manager and I told her, I was like, listen, I know that you told all the other managers this, But either I go up to HR or you tell all those managers that it's not true. And she ended up telling all the managers it was true. And then she wanted me out of the department. So she helped get me promoted to a better department because she, I think, felt threatened for me being in that department. Actually ended up working out very well. However, I felt like there was something wrong with me because there were people that were saying these things about me. And I always felt kind of guilty for having, kind of being more scattered, but having a lot of energy. And for years, I identified with that. And then what happened is eventually I learned that of meditation. This is 2012, went through my spiritual awakening. For that, I learned how to observe my thoughts. Observe thoughts as they come in. I realized that I just had a lot of energy and I learned how to observe my thoughts. And that was the game changer. 2 or 3 days into meditation, I didn't get a crazy epiphany, nothing insane happened where I was like, oh, spiritual enlightenment, my third eye just opened and everything cracked open. It wasn't necessarily like that. However, what did happen is I sat there and I was like, okay, first off, I was like, I don't want to think negative thoughts because I learned about the law of attraction shortly before that. I was like, thinking negative thoughts, I'm going to manifest more negative things happening. So instead what I did is like, you know what, I'm going to.
Okay, here we go. Here it is. All right. First off, true, like maybe the job just wasn't for him. And he talks about that later. Yeah, maybe it's just not a good job for you. And yeah, it's obviously not helpful for people to think that something's wrong with them because they can't do like a mundane job like that. Or maybe for someone else who really likes shoes that doesn't feel as mundane. Like maybe if it's a person who has a special interest in shoes, like maybe that's a great job for them. But I hope that you understand what I mean. But I had to stop it because okay, this is where some of the another unsubstantiated claim is coming up, and one that's one of the more harmful ones.
Happened is I sat there and I was like, okay, first off, I was like, I don't want to think negative thoughts because I learned about the law of attraction shortly before that. I was like, thinking negative thoughts, I'm going to manifest more negative things happening. So
okay, so he said that really fast, but he said, I didn't want to think negative thoughts. I had just learned about the law of attraction, and so I didn't want to manifest negativity in my life. I'm going to count that as an unsubstantiated claim. He didn't make it as a full claim, but it's one that he's believing and operating off of. The unsubstantiated claim that the law of attraction is like an evidence-based practice. People will lie to you, and sometimes they're not lying on purpose. I used this argument when I didn't understand it. So I didn't mean to lie or mislead people, but I definitely did mislead people. There's nothing in anything, nothing in quantum physics that at all substantiates the claim that our thoughts create our reality. At all. But, it's also ridiculously unhealthy to believe that if I think negative things are going to happen to me. It's just not the reality. So you become obsessed with not thinking bad thoughts. Your brain is this beautiful organism, right? Not organ, right? In your body. My thing is like the heart beats, the stomach digests food, the lungs breathe, and the brain thinks. It has thoughts, right? It is what it does. And for us to be judgmental towards any of those thoughts is for us to be judgmental when our stomach hurts. Like, of course, it's uncomfortable when our stomach hurts, but it's all a part of like us functioning as a full human being. Sometimes my breathing becomes labored, and I don't judge myself for that. I don't think that that I'm a bad person because I have labored breathing. I'm like, how can I attend to my body? Maybe I need my inhaler or something like that, right? Like that is what you actually do. You don't run away from these very natural things. Negative thoughts hurt, but they're natural, right? We're not supposed to run away from them. We're supposed to be curious about them. Okay. What are your thoughts on spiritual awakenings? Do you think it's psychosis? Because I thought I had one when I was high on edibles. Great question, and maybe I'll do an entire video on this thing, because I've had really significant to me like spiritual experiences, yeah, that I would consider awakening type things. And I think personally, I think that spiritual awakenings are very real. I think that spiritual awakenings can, especially if you're not grounded or if you don't know what's happening or if it happens very suddenly, can cause psychosis. Like I know there was a particular time when I had some type of an experience, and like, it was really like you're like a little bit on drugs for like a couple of weeks. Yeah, like you look at the world and like the sky is like bluer than you've ever seen it before, and like the greens are greener than you've ever seen it before in your entire life. And you literally just want to walk down the streets like running in a circle, like you're in like a montage or something. Like it feels very real. It's a very real experience. And I think those are important, very human things that happen. I think, for example, like chi or prana, like there's something about that maybe could be tested a little bit, because like even like I don't know, because like your goosebumps help lead you towards, I think, the things that you want to do. Like if I'm sometimes my body tells me things. Like if I'm confused, I don't know which way to go, I can listen to my body and it can kind of point me in the right direction. I think learning how to listen to that voice, connect with yourself more deeply, is my opinion of the spiritual experience. That is kind of the spiritual path, which I think is very real, very important for people to engage in, but not in a disconnected, detached way like the New Age promotes. Okay. And so that's a poor understanding. For one thing, honestly, a person who has a short attention span and memory issues is not a person who is suited to be customer forward. Everyone can't do everything. Yeah, I really don't know. Some people can be, some people can't be. I guess I know, it depends on like the different thing. I know someone who talked about working at a grocery store, and like they had ADHD and it was really great for them. They really liked it. So I don't know if that's the same as, maybe it's more sales is different. I don't know. That's just what I was saying. And you said, Carly says, my spiritual awakening made me in love with life and more aware. Yeah. So I think we really can have multiple sides of this experience happen. So definitely spiritual awakening can lead to psychosis. It doesn't always.
Said what I did is like, you know what? I'm going to observe my thoughts. I'm not trying to control them. Just they come in, observe them, let them be there, and then watch them leave. I allowed the thoughts to be there. And by allowing and observing them, everything began to change from then on out. I remember it was also like the third day I sat down. I thought to myself, I was like, okay, my life's going to forever change from this experience of learning meditation. I just decided that. I don't know what it was. It was an intuitional thing. I decided that my life was going to be forever changed. I sat down, observed my thoughts, and that's when my life really began to change. It was like a choice, a decision, but an allowance at the same time.
And for me, I've had an experience like that as well with my anxiety. And I remember like I had this day where I like was in the basement of my old house, and I was like talking to myself about my anxiety, and I was like, something has to change with my anxiety. Like it can't be like this anymore. Like I know that like this was just when I was doing all this spiritual stuff. I'm like, I know that like my soul is, I don't remember what I said to myself, but I was convinced that I would like, my anxiety would like start going away. And it did. I shit you not. It got so much better for like almost a year. And then it fell apart because I don't know. It was so basically what that tells me is that the placebo effect is incredible. We can convince ourselves of a lot of things, and that's amazing. Yeah, but that's all that means.
Then I became aware of how my beliefs were creating my reality. I
think that's still the same. That's the same unsubstantiated claim, so I won't add it to the list.
I'm aware that I had this belief that I had ADHD or ADD because I was told that by a doctor. I was given something called Adderall, which is the prescription drug that they give people that have ADD or ADHD. And Adderall helps people to focus while they're on it. I would take it every day going to Nordstrom's, and I would go to work, and I would take this Adderall. And then I'd be able to really focus. I'd be helping customers and make so much money. And what Adderall does is it helps you release dopamine, which helps you focus, but then you crash on it. And you'll find that it's hard to sleep and it's hard to eat. Harsh side effects. That's what propelled me to learn meditation.
Which is true, y'all. I had a very similar experience with stimulants. I had a time where they really mess with my anxiety, really awful. And I did also have times where I would take it and come home and crash. And I was able to like work things out with my prescriber at the time. Like there are other options. Like I think, for example, like I crashed and my prescriber at the time, like put me on a different type of medication that I took it like twice a day so that I wouldn't have a crash. But yeah, so there are other options than to say medication is bad and therefore I'm going to meditate. Like meditation is great. If you in your own personal life think that it's a good idea for you to stop taking stimulants and then start using meditation and other natural tools, excellent. That's great. In this video, he doesn't really like tell people to do that. So I don't think he does that. So I would say that it was a problem if he, it was a problem if he was telling other people to do the same thing. If you reduced or eliminated your anxiety based on your decision, how is that a placebo? Didn't you do that yourself? Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Exactly. I did it to myself, therefore it's a placebo effect. I convinced myself that I would stop being anxious, and then I was. I think, in my opinion, that is the definition of the placebo effect. You convince yourself that something's going to work. You take the sugar pill, which is nothing, and it fixes you. I took the sugar pill, which was the decision, and it fixed me for a little bit. And yeah, I think that's what the placebo effect is. It's a real effect. It had real changes to me. The placebo effect isn't like, oh, it's just the placebo effect, I'm gonna toss it to the side. No, the placebo effect is an incredible tool that we can use in our own spiritual practices to help us become more engaged in our own spirituality, to help us become more engaged in our own internal mystical world that lives inside of our heads. We can do that stuff if we want to. But yeah, so I don't say placebo effect to be like, meh, to poo-poo it. It's like an excellent thing. The placebo effect, I think I wish that we had more research on it, that people used it to their advantage more. I'm personally learning how to use the placebo effect to benefit my life now. In some ways it's working, right? So I know that I can do it, right? I know that I've done it before, so I'm seeing how I can do it again.
I was like, there's gotta be something else that doesn't have such harsh side effects. So I came across that of meditation. That's when my life really began to change. But I started to observe my thoughts.
Oh, also, and I didn't mention this, but he said something like, he realized that he had, and I'm not sure, I don't think he said this exactly, but basically that his thoughts create his reality, and he was believing the idea that the doctors told him that he had ADHD. And it seems like he was claiming that had something to do with why he was suffering from ADHD. Believing that he had it made his ADHD worse. I'm assuming that that was what he meant, and therefore that would be our 6th unsubstantiated claim that he's made so far. Okay.
The thoughts of understanding that my beliefs, believing there was something wrong with me with ADHD, is what was causing me to only look into the belief system of the doctor that had to tell me what to do, the pharmaceutical that I thought was the cure. But what I realized is that belief itself is overlaying it. And
also, more problematic language. Okay. So he took the Adderall and everything, and he says and once again, I don't want to be too nitpicky with language here, but he did say what the doctors said was the cure. Nobody says that, right? And if you go to a doctor that says the cure for ADHD is stimulants, please run away so fast, because that's not the truth. You want to know why? Because ADHD doesn't have a cure, okay? It's like saying, I have a cure for your brown eyes. Like, not even, because I'm sure you might be able to surgically change your eye color. I don't think you can surgically, maybe you can take out parts of your brain to make yourself not ADHD. There's not a cure for it. It's just like your neurotype. You can't cure a neurotype, right? So he's teaching misinformation about ADHD in this message. If he was saying all of the spiritual stuff, like how to meditate and think and all this stuff in a different way, and actually know what is true about ADHD, I wouldn't have a problem with this. But I have a problem with the not accurate information. Okay.
What I decided to do was just to reframe it. Instead, I saw myself as having a lot of energy. I had to ground it. So instead, what I would do is I'd go outside, I would ground myself in grass, and I would allow the energy to flow through. I would meditate every day. After meditation started to change my life, I would do it every day. And I meditated in the morning and at night.
Wow. Yeah. Great. I don't have ADHD. Let me reframe it. I just have a lot of energy. What? That's number one. This also could be, I wouldn't say that this is misinformation necessarily, but like not everybody who has ADHD is hyperactive. Some people with ADHD may not feel like super hyperactive like him. They might have more of a mental hyperactivity or like intensity, so to speak. And that's kind of like more inattentive ADHD type. So this is also like maybe a little bit of inaccurate information, but he's just talking about his side of the story. And yeah, Hollis, it is alarming that he says that's the cure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I just wish, I wish people with bigger followings would be more careful. They would just be more like, the bigger your following is, the more cautious you are, right? I remember how scared I was. I felt really crappy when I had to come on here and be like, y'all, a lot of my earlier videos on this channel, like I don't agree with a lot of them. Like a lot of my spiritual views I taught, I don't agree with any of that. I felt pretty embarrassed to do that in public. It's not fun to do that. But like I felt like I owed my viewers, you all, the truth, right? That like I had changed my mind. And that I, but okay. 7. Sometimes I start sentences and it just 5 sentences come out at the same time. And it's an incoherent. So sorry about that, but here we go.
And my life began to change from that point going on forward. So what this involved me coming more at my core and understanding that I had the ability to reframe it. Now, shortly after that, I started to understand more about starseeds. Now, here's the thing about starseeds.
Here we go, y'all. And you're right, Carly. It's just got to get those views, right? All that, like you said earlier, clickbait. That's what's more important, right? I'm sure I could get better views if I had more catch lines or phrases or clickbait titles or whatever. But whatever. Like, if people are going to find my content, they'll find my content.
Every single person on the planet, and especially if you're watching this video right now, you are a starseed, meaning.
Okay, great. Number 8. Oh no, wait, no, not 8. That's number 7. Not 8, sorry. Number 7. Every single person in the world is a starseed. Okay, so he doesn't explain what a starseed is in this video, I don't think. But this is like, it's not only am I a starseed, right? Also, everyone on the planet is a starseed, right? I typically take issue with things like this because you're saying that like this thing that is true for me is definitely true for everybody else. Like I don't understand how you can say that. And this is a great question. Well, like not a question, but you said ADHD makes meditation so hard. And I am learning how to learn how to work with my ADHD brain during meditation and less against it. And I'm trying to come up with a different type of way of viewing meditation. I think that ADHD folks, like maybe even like neurodivergent folks and stuff like that, we need a different type. Not all of us, because I think the sitting like silent meditation is also useful. But in addition, other ways of meditating, more active-based meditations, other ways of engaging with our psyche, and other ways with engaging with kind of our inner aspects and things like that. More of like an adventurous exploration rather than just a sitting in observation, which I think both can be interesting and useful. But yeah, try different types of meditation. Try moving during your meditations. Try like rocking or pacing and reflecting on your thoughts. Get your body moving. That'll help give yourself something to focus on so that you're less distracted. Or put on music. That can also help. Just try to help yourself accommodate your meditations just like you would anything else. In the classroom, we can get accommodations. If we can't focus, try to do the same thing in meditation. Put headphones on, earplugs, or mute, like anything. Try a bunch of different things. Maybe meditate while you're eating something and focus on the sensations of the tastes. Like that could also be a useful thing. Right. See, exactly. Thank you, Hollis. He's not wrong, right? We all are technically made of the stuff of stars. We're all star stuff. I agree. And like, for example, I believe that we are all one. I believe that, we're all connected. I believe that stuff because I think that it's literally, there's literally no way for us to not be connected. Like we all literally came from the same stuff. So it's impossible for us to not be connected. But the terms that he's using make claims that are not true because he's saying, especially with the starseeds thing, is you're saying that your souls were formed on another galaxy and they were sent to Earth for a specific reason because there's so many problems. Like apparently Earth is like the most important planet in the entire galaxy. Why? I don't know, but we're just, I don't know. maybe some narcissism coming out, but who knows?
You have a connection to the stars. You have a connection to higher states of consciousness, whether you're aware of it or not. And we are multidimensional.
And we do have a connection to getting into altered states of consciousness. We do.
Beings. When we come to Earth, we forget who we are. We go through a veil of forgetfulness. We come into
we don't. That claim we already marked, so we're not going to add it on the list. But we don't. There's
this 3D avatar body that experiences reality through the 5 senses. We emphasize these senses, and we go through and get immersed.
And also the 3D avatar body thing that feels the senses, like, yeah, like, yes, we are not, I don't think saying that like we're only our bodies, like there is a sense of shallowness to that because we know that we're more. There's a feeling of depth and moreness that I relate to, that I understand other people relate to. But we're not souls living in bodies. Like we're not like these little soul, like we're not like a puppet master who enters a body and like controls it for the time that we're alive, and then that little soul exits and goes back into the field. Like we don't know that is what's happening. We understand that we have this experience of this felt sense of a soul. We can say that for sure, but we don't know what it is or what happens when we die or what happened before we got here.
In the experience, so much so that we forget that we are this eternal spiritual beings.
We're made like, maybe we are eternal in the sense that like we die and like our stuff like goes into the ground and we're reborn again, like through the natural process of death being collected. You know, the fungi and stuff, they come and they eat it's gross, but they eat our stuff and they create dirt, and then it starts over again. Like that's what happens. If reincarnation is anything, maybe that's what reincarnation is. But yeah. Okay, so why would our souls, assuming they exist for the purpose of this discussion, need to be constructed in another galaxy? Just why? That's a good question also. There may be, okay, so I think some of the things are that like there's a lot of conspiracy theories about the fact that like we are alien monkey hybrids, that aliens came here and so therefore our souls wouldn't have been able to originate on this planet because those beings were from another dimension or from another galaxy or something like that. That's one story that I've heard is maybe a reason why they couldn't have come from here. But yeah, when you follow this ideology back to its source, it literally is a bunch of people who like were cult leaders, honestly, and they were not nice people. But their ideas got picked up, and that's where we are now. That is the honest truth. That's the long and the short of it. But yeah.
And what's happening right now on the planet is more and more people are waking up to who they are, and part of this has to do with our starseed origins. Who and how we are connected as starseeds. Every single person on the planet is a starseed. The ones waking up now are the ones that are meant to wake up now to help wake up other people.
So like, okay, that's the other thing about this new agey stuff is like, not only are we here on the planet, but we are supposed to be waking other people up. Anyone else hearing evangelism in that? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like for them, like they need to spread this message. They need to spread the message that you are a spiritual being inside of this human meat suit, having this human experience, meant to send your consciousness up to the 5th dimension. Like you see, like these things. Rur, I don't know what your name is, but Rur, I like Rur. So Rur, you right. The scary part of New Age spirituality and conspiracy is when people say that this reality isn't real. Y'all, people will sit there and tell you, you can punch me in the face and I'll feel it, but it's not real. Like, I don't understand it. I do understand it, actually. I understand why people say that. It's because people have misunderstood quantum physics, and a bunch of people who don't understand quantum physics started talking about quantum physics, and they made mistakes because quantum physics is math, right? I don't understand quantum physics, right? But now that I've done research, I've heard from other people who understand physics more than me, and they've helped me understand where other people have gotten it wrong, right? If you want me, I want to do a video on the quantum world. Maybe that's the next thing that I'll start working on. But I have a couple of starseed videos that I want to do first. So, here we are. All right.
By them being themselves, not necessarily by going out and like hammering in these ideas, like, you're a starseed, bro. Hey, just wake up. It's more so just like, just wake up. I'm awake. I like walking around. I like having fun in this reality. I view it as a form of.
See, I'm happy. I'm this. Like, you should come and join my side. Like, I understand why people want to do that. And even like, and I'm not gonna lie, I am vaguely hoping to convert some people or deconvert some people, kind of. I'm hoping that some people who are curious, who are like on the fence, I think we mentioned this like last week in another video, like people who are curious and are asking these questions, I hope that they would find my content and be like, okay, like I feel like, I can maybe start doing some critical thinking or whatever. Not that like I think that they need to come over to my side. Like I don't have a reason. Like it's not that, if 10 million people leave New Age spirituality, then we will come to the third dimension. Like I don't have a purpose. Like I'm just trying to live my life. Like nothing's gonna happen. It's just like hopefully get to live my life a little bit more functionally because I'm more grounded. Like that's really the only thing. But yeah. So this person's Hollis says, fine, assuming I go with that, what the heck is the utility of waking up my strange constructed extraterrestrial soul? What good is doing that? What would happen if we all do that? Great. So Hollis, great question. Basically, as soon as you awaken, right, when you start to awaken, you can do things like open up your third eye. You can start to learn how to do all these other soul-related things. You can activate your psychic abilities. There's a lot of reasons why people talk about why it's important to wake up. So when you wake up, your extraterrestrial soul, these are different things that can happen. People say that when you wake up, you can activate your third strand DNA. You can, the golden thing, there's all these different things that people say is what happens when you start to spiritually awaken. And then what the point is specifically a New Age philosophy, is that we're going to do enough work that either two things will happen, that we will create a new world, like a new world in the third dimension that's kind of either between this world and the spiritual dimension. It's kind of confusing. Or that we will bring our consciousness to a high enough level that the alien species who are already visiting this planet apparently will finally reveal themselves to us, and then they will help us like evolve into our higher consciousness. Those are typically the two kind of like end result. Some people who are like generally into spirituality, they might not know this stuff, but the people who are like actual New Agers a lot of them will believe this, not all of them, because it's not like Christianity, No, none of that will do anything useful for you on this planet at all. None of it. But it's kind of like one of those things, you create a problem and then they have to create the solution. Kind of like for me, for Christianity, like if we're all sinners and and we're going to go to hell, then we have to have a creator. We have to have a savior. Jesus has to exist. We have to worship him, like all that stuff. If the end thing isn't real, then nothing's the point. So, all right.
Dream, therefore I'm able to have more flexibility with it. And it's not so serious. And that leads by example.
And then also that like living that he is able, let me just rewind that back a little bit so you can see how he thinks he's living his life now that he believes that life is an illusion, right?
It's more so just like, just wake up. I'm awake. I like walking around. I like having fun in this reality. I view it as a form of dream. Therefore I'm able to have more flexibility with it. And it's not so serious. And that leads by example.
This is not a dream. This is not a dream. We are awake. This is life right now. You are living life. You are not asleep, right? And if by some chance we are actually in a simulation, we don't know, right? And personally, right, for me and how I'm choosing to live my life is to engage here. I'm not waiting for my afterlife to do for anything. I'm interested in being here right now.
However, being a starseed is about being aware of your connection to the stars, to different reality systems that are higher dimensional in nature. If you connect to your, many people on the planet. I recently went to a Bashar seminar. If you guys don't know Bashar, his name's Daryl Anka. He's been channeling Bashar for like 30 years.
Y'all, I hadn't heard of Bashar. But after this video, I went on a deep dive all on Bashar. Guys, Bashar just says a bunch of this stuff. He's a channeled being. All he says is thoughts create your reality. All you got to do is manifest this and that. You're already doing, like, it's all the same stuff. You chose to come here to this reality and to read. Nothing more unsubstantiated claims.
Victor, Lior, I, and Patty, Victor's wife, we all went to the Bashar event. And we all put in our names. Lior, Victor, and I put in our names, and we all got called to ask questions within the first half of the seminar. It's really cool.
It probably means that was magic, by the way.
There's like 100 people there, and only like 15, 20 people get called, and all 3 of us got called. It was really cool. So we got to ask questions. So a lot of that had to do with understanding starseeds, our connection to the stars, understanding who we are at a greater level. And one of the things Bashar said is he said many people on the planet have a connection, because I asked this question, have a connections to Sirius, Pleiades, Arcturus, Andromedan. These are all very common connections that we have.
So remember earlier I mentioned kind of like the indigo crystal star seeds. Like these are the other kinds of star seeds that I was talking about earlier.
And we all have connections in that way. And that it being a lot of these are higher dimensional connections as well. When we look at the Pleiades, it's a higher dimensional connection than just here. I mean, it's better. It's not about being better or worse, but it is higher vibrational. You could say some of these versions of us that we connect to are the future versions of us in different realities. And we're connected.
Number 8.
To them now, because now is the most transformative time to be on the planet ever before. And what's happening is people being born now and people in the last 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that was a small event, but Bashar is not by any means a small person. He has a documentary. He has been featured on Gaia TV, which is basically like Netflix for conspiracy theorists and New Agers. So he is not a small channeler by any means. Yeah, so maybe that was a small event, but he's a pretty well-known channeler.
Years that have, especially having ADHD or ADD, is a side effect of the DNA being activated and a side effect of the mind working at a different capacity.
God fucking damn it! Like ADHD is a result of your DNA being activated. Like who gives him the right to make this stuff up? Come on, dude.
Why is it that a lot of kids going to schools aren't able to focus? One of the reasons is because some of the things you learn in school aren't that exciting.
True.
These kids come here to make profound change on the planet, and they're so high.
Not true, right? These kids don't come here. They come here because they were born, and that's it. That they're just here. They didn't come here to do anything. That was not a true statement.
Gifted with their minds, but they're meant and put into these boxes that they need to focus on this, this, and this. And these little things are like, why do I need to focus on that? And it's hard for them to focus because they're not passionate about it. And it's not delivered in a way that they can really absorb and embrace and immerse themselves in.
True.
So me, for example, it was also hard for me to focus in school.
Right.
And I wasn't that interested in it. However, now that I'm able to channel my energy and know what I love to do, it's so easy for me. Are we passionate about what we are doing? So the phenomenon when it comes to ADHD and ADD with starseeds is that the people being born are operating at a certain frequency that many times gets mislabeled or misjudged. Then we judge ourselves and we think there's something wrong with us and we medicate ourselves with ADD or with Adderall or Ritalin or whatever they give out for it. However, many times it just has to do with, are we passionate about what we are doing?
Okay. Man, I'm so glad. Man, I don't need to do anything about my ADHD except for do passionate stuff. Wow, great. And then also, he's just like, there's more to ADHD than like not focusing, right? ADHD also impacts the way that I process emotions, right? The way that I process information, the way that I connect to other people. Like, you know what? And I know free speech is great. I love free speech. I've been talking to my wife about it. And like, I love free speech, but I also hate it because that means that people can talk about unhealthy things and stupid stuff that I don't agree with. But I get to free speech it right back to him. So it all works out.
And are we grounding it in a powerful way? If you have ADD or ADHD, don't beat yourself up. Know that you can start to let go of the label. You can start to redefine it. You can go out and ground yourself. That's what
did he say?
Don't beat yourself up. Know that you can start to let go of the label.
Okay, so like, yeah, for sure. I 100% agree. If you are a diagnosed ADHD person and you don't want the label of having ADHD, go by all means. Don't refer to yourself with ADHD. Don't do it. If you are not comfortable with it, that is your prerogative. But like, Just so you know. just that you don't label yourself with ADHD. That doesn't mean that you don't. That's not the way that your neurology is categorized, right? We made up this term.
You start to redefine it.
We made up this term called ADHD, and people with this characteristics fit into this box, right? So you definitely don't have to agree with that box, but like that's still your neurology, I guess. Oh, very true. Yeah. This current structure of education and the content means that you definitely don't have to have ADHD to find it not useful or boring. Great point. Yeah, perfect. Let's see what else he has to say.
You can go out and ground yourself. That's what I did. I ground myself every day. I walk on grass or I meditate. Meditation will help you to ground your energy. There's nothing.
Okay. So, okay. Like meditation will help you to ground your energy. So normally I would just hear that and be like, that's fine. But one thing I do I want to put that as like a half unsubstantiated claim, only because I know that when a lot of New Age people talk about energy, like they're talking about this, like they put it in like a term in a way that I think is like not helpful or useful. Like they make it into like more ethereal than it actually is. I think that energy is a very real thing that comes in through our bodies, and that like connecting to the ground can be really helpful. But yeah, that's why I said it's only half. Because I'm like, I don't like it. Maybe that's just me being picky. But
wrong with you. And if you have kids or you know people that have ADD, start to understand them in a new way. Don't label them and put them into a little box. Understand that they just operate differently because their purpose in life is high vibrational in nature to help other people. And sometimes that gets misinterpreted.
And the other thing, actually, as soon as hold on, I need to go back. I forget what he said.
And will help you to ground your energy. There's nothing wrong with you. And if you have kids or you know people that have ADD, start to understand them in a new way. Don't label them and put them into a little box. Understand that they just operate differently because their purpose in life is high vibrational in nature to help other people.
I forget what I was saying. We'll just move on.
And sometimes that gets misinterpreted. And we're all high vibrational beings. So like if you don't have ADHD.
That is for sure. That is an unsubstantiated claim. What does it mean to be high vibrational? I don't know. Yeah, we're a being, but like, what is a high vibrational being? I don't know what that means.
You need to feel like, if you don't have a lot of energy, then you got to feel like there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with anyone. There's just different ways that we embody our energy.
True, we're all different, and that's truth.
And there's a negative connotation around having a lot of energy, having ADD or ADHD. And if we were to start to focus on things we're really passionate about, and if we were to relabel it and we were just to focus on grounding our energy, then all of this would begin to change. But the truth is, right now on the planet is the most important time to be alive than ever before, because more people are going to wake up in this lifetime than ever.
Okay, 2 claims. This is the best time to be alive right now. What? Who? How do you know? Like, why? And that's also an interesting thing. A lot of New Agers will claim that, like, this time is the best time. Like, a bunch of souls have all signed up to come to Earth at this time now because it's so amazing. And everyone in the galaxy is coming to Earth because it's so special. How do you know that? And then the other claim was, I forget. Hold on.
The most important time to be alive than ever before, because more people are going to wake up in this.
Oh, and then more people are going to wake up in this lifetime than ever before. How do you know that?
Lifetime than ever.
How do you know? What? And then also, what counts as awakening? Does it mean awakening into New Age philosophy? Does it mean awakening into spirituality or Christianity or being Muslim? Like, does it mean being a spiritual person, or is it specifically waking up to that belief? I don't know. Actually, he could be right that like we're having more New Age people now than ever before because it is gaining a lot of popularity. So maybe it's a half substantiated claim. I don't know.
We have more of this ability for us to wake up. And many people are in a deep sleep. They're just walking around kind of sleepwalking. They're like, And then you get people like, that are awake that are like, okay, this is what we're going to do. People just.
I'm going to put that as a claim as well, because he's saying that people who are not spiritually awakened in his way that he perceives it are asleep. So I don't think that's a fair claim. Maybe that they're confused. Maybe that like people who, I would say that even he is someone who's kind of disconnected from reality. So like I would say that he hasn't even woken up yet because he's like in La La Land somewhere else. But like I'm not the kind of person to say people are awake or asleep. At least not anymore. I used to do that a lot, but not anymore.
Awake in general. If you're watching this video, you're one of those people that are awake.
Okay, so congrats everyone. We just watched this video, so now we're all awakened.
You can only perceive.
Well, being awakened is easy. Like, at least when I was a Christian, I had to like put in some effort, but I could just watch this video and then now I'm awakened. But people, a lot of spiritual videos will say stuff like this. They'll be like, you clicked on this video for a reason. I can feel it. If you're watching this video, this was meant for you spiritually. And I'm like, you have no idea, but whatever.
See that what you are the vibration of.
Oh wait, that was a claim too. If you're watching this video, you're awakened. Number 4. Let's see how many. We're almost at 15 claims.
You're helping other people to wake up as well, to more of their starseed self. Understand they are multidimensional. Understand that this is a form of dream that we're becoming more lucid in. And as I go like this is my way of showing, yeah, we in a dream.
Oh, we live in a dream. I don't think I marked that before, but we live in a dream. That's 15, y'all. 15 and a half claims.
Dream. It's a fun dream. We can enjoy the dream, but the more loose you make it, the more you enjoy it. That's simple. So enjoy yourself.
Y'all, this is not okay. This is not a game, right? This is actual real life, okay? This is not a game, period. What I will say is that when we add a little bit of levity to life, when we're able to kind of be more playful and have more of a gamish understanding of life, when we don't take those moments so seriously, like we kind of add more playfulness to that, we can really, I think, improve our lives a lot. When I add playfulness to my day, when it's a bad day, I have a much better time. So that's probably what he's doing on like a greater sense, but he's confused himself by thinking that the entirety of life is a video game. You don't respawn when you die, right? We just die. It's not like... And the other thing, y'all, is that this is dangerous because people will do things like unalive themselves because they believe that this is just a game they can reset. Okay? This has real implications on people's lives, y'all. This isn't just like people can believe whatever they want, but like you have to understand that these beliefs sometimes can lead to dangerous things. And I just think that you should be aware.
Allow this dream to be what it is. Understanding your multidimensional nature. You are a starseed. If you have ADHD, if you know someone with ADHD or ADD, then understand that you can more so accept them. You can accept yourself. You can reframe it. You can ground yourself in a powerful way. You can know it's okay. You just simply have more of these DNA markers activated. However, don't get too attached to the label as well. Sometimes
he's like repeated this DNA stuff so many times. Like it's just not true. And now it's making me annoyed. I wasn't as upset watching it the first time, but I feel like now I'm more upset about how many times he's brought this up. It's just so wrong to say that people like they have different DNA because we're just normal humans. Like I don't think that seeing people with more ADHD is some type of evolution. Like maybe it's some type of evolutionary change. I don't know, but my opinion from what I kind of have heard in passing from people before is that like people like neurodivergent folks have always existed. When everyone else, like I've heard Temple Grandin, who's a famous autistic woman, she said that when everyone was around the fires chit-chatting and sharing stories, the people with the more visual-based people, the neurodivergent folks, were in the corner like putting rocks together, trying to invent stuff because that's what they want to do. You want to make things, build stuff with your hands. Like we were able to imagine these things in a different way. Like we're very useful, right, in terms of this society. I think we've always existed. I don't think that this is anything new necessarily, but it could be. I could be wrong.
the message is, yes, this is who I am, and that may emphasize the spiritual ego. Everyone to attach the label as well. Sometimes the message is, yes, this is who I am, and that may emphasize the spiritual ego. Everyone is in this process of waking up.
But y'all, anytime I hear anyone on these channels talking about spiritual ego, like someone like him, I just like laugh so hard because a lot of the stuff that he teaches is like very much like all spiritual bypassing, like camouflaged spiritual bypassing. So yeah, it sucks.
Just have different ways of expressing it. So know that you're special, but everyone else is special in their own way as well, and move forward knowing that and embodying who you really are. So if you would like a meditation that will help you to raise your vibrational frequency and to also ground it, one of the most powerful meditations I have is in the top description box below. Listen to it for 21 days. I think it'll change your life. Also, I'll be doing more live streams on Instagram, so if you haven't followed me on Instagram yet, you can see it right here.
Okay, that's pretty much it, y'all. This guy is, like I said, I think Carly earlier said, like, he kind of creeps me out or something like that, or I got a bad feeling from him. And because I didn't initially, but after a while, I remember, like, I was watching a video of his about, like, manifestation, and he was like, yeah, like, I remember when he said it, I remember thinking in my head, like, that just doesn't seem humanly possible. Something about, like, yeah, there's a lot about these ideas that just isn't it doesn't work. It doesn't really make sense. But yeah, if anyone else has any thoughts or questions before I wrap up, this is a great time to share. This has been a wild ride. And obviously this was a long video. I'm so grateful that you all hung out with me this whole time. You know, there's a lot here. And I think that this stuff is so important. I thank you. You know, you couldn't do it. And it's funny because I talked to my wife about this stuff. Like I love listening to people's ideas that are very different from mine and trying to think about why, like, what about it? Like, why don't I agree with this? Like, why do I believe what I believe? Is the reasons why I believe what I believe, like, can they stand up to scrutiny, or like, do they fall apart? And there are some beliefs that I have that probably could fall apart, put under scrutiny, and some other ones that I have that are pretty well, I think, some pretty well substantiated claims. Like, for example, the Earth revolves around the sun. Like, that is a claim that I can rely on. But like other claims that I have been, or other beliefs that I have, like my beliefs about maybe there being something to like telepathy or psychic stuff. Like, I think that there might be something to that. That's completely unsubstantiated. That will fall apart instantly with scrutiny because I don't have any of the answers, right? Very interesting topic. I've been wanting to discuss this with someone, and I appreciate your script. Thank you so much. Same. I want so much, like, I've been wanting to have these discussions with people, and I don't have anyone to talk about the stuff with too much. And because I talk way, like, I'm intense. I'm an intense person. I think about this stuff way too much, and I have so many ideas, and my head is exploding all the time. So yeah. And Rover says, what turns me off about the spiritual community on YouTube is they're all trying to sell you something. Yeah, and it's too pro-capitalist for me. That I remember too, because I got caught up in a little bit of that girl, even though I'm non-binary. I don't know. I don't know. I just think it's girl boss culture, hustle culture, whatever it is, for a while. And even like the spiritual version of that. And I remember being like, trying to talk to the coach that I had at the time, like, about how I was feeling weird about the capitalist stuff. And I was trying to have these conversations with her, and she just like wasn't even on like the same register as me. And because at that point I was really detached from like a lot of my more activist stuff, because I think for me being really involved in spirituality pulled me away from like activist circles, because I don't know, it's less important to that group of people. And yeah, I was really disconnected from my like anti-capitalist mindset, and that is who I am naturally, like pretty anti-capitalist. And like now I feel like more authentic to myself, because I'm not really like, I'm not trying to just work for money and abundance or whatever. They try to resell the capitalist idea of hoarding wealth as abundance. It's disgusting. It's awful. It's really bad. I do a lot of that anti-MLM, that really unhealthy coach circle on Instagram. I see a lot of that. There's a lot of great people on there talking about having conversations about those things too. But yeah, I think as neurodivergent people specifically, in my personal experience, and a couple of other people that I've talked to have also shared some feelings of kind of like being gullible, having it be really easy for them to be influenced by other people, other ideas. When someone really feels confident about something about me is like, maybe they know something that I don't know. And I'm not sure if that's like, I don't know exactly what that's about, or if that's something that's evidence-based with neurodivergence, people being more gullible. But I know that like, it seems maybe that there could be some validity to it. And I know that, like, for example, neurodivergent people can get stuck in like abusive relationships and kind of fall into a lot of the gaslighting and stuff like that as well. But there's a lot of layers of reasons for probably why this happens. But I just think I am personally passionate about helping other neurodivergent folks learn how to think critically, because it's dangerous out there with these ideas. I indoctrinated myself on the internet. This stuff is, all this information is out there for you to soak up and soak in. There's conspiracy stuff all over the place. Like, I just want people to stay grounded. I had some of that stuff is scary. That conspiracy theory stuff and really fucks with your head. So maybe I'll make a bit, I don't know, just make a comment. So yeah, Rover can relate. Very, very gullible and naive. I agree 100%. I was embarrassed about it for a long time, but now I'm owning up to it, because when I denied it, I got myself in trouble and would believe some unhealthy things. But now that I have kind of spoken, now that I have learned how to think properly a little bit more, I feel more confident with these things. The internet is very dangerous, y'all. It's scary out there. And all I really want to do is help y'all think a little bit better, not to make all the mistakes that I did. I got really hurt. I got really hurt from being misled by the spiritual community online. And I would very much hope that other people don't get hurt. And learning how to critically think is the one tool that I can help give you, that hopefully can help you have something that you can, use to help protect yourself while you're on the internet. All right, y'all. It's been 2 hours. I need to go do something else. Have a great day. It's been awesome to spend some time with you. Yeah, and all the things. Peace and love. I'll see you all next time.